Hey, what's up, family? Love and light. Hope you feeling balanced and beautiful today. This is Truth and Light, man. We going back at it one more time, ending this. Well, not one more time. We'll be doing this for infinity, really. But ending this duality, man. Ending all dual ways of thinking, so we can unify and get the full picture of things. And I'm starting to feel like some of this stuff is like adhesion contracts, man. Like seriously. I'm starting to think that this stuff is like take it or leave it. Like I'm spilling stuff out on here, and this isn't really my opinion that I'm giving you. It's just how it is. So like you can either take it and do something with it or just leave it alone. But it's still about activating yourself to the full potential, as well as telling you or showing you that life has been calling you to do this. It's just been coming in different many shapes and forms, even down to the law. And like I was sharing from the last video where I was talking about the agriculture and how they document and label it, it's because it's kind of like, all right, how your body works when it comes to sugar and fat and all of that type of stuff. When your body gets bigger than its what's the word I'm looking for? When your body gets overweight, it's because you have too much sugar running through your body. And what happens is your sugar actually gets pushed in your pancreas, and your pancreas pushes it into your fat, and it stays in there until you sweat it out. So it's as if your body is expecting you to be physically active. And you don't have to do it, but that is how it works. So if you don't do it, then there's consequences for that, like the overweight game. And all this stuff is very much like that. So, let's go ahead and unify all this stuff so we can get all the dead weight off of us, man. And always remember your biggest earnings in life are the connections you make on the journey. Connect to yourself so you can connect to all others. And rule by the 5 points, man. Be adepts in this and allow the spirit of God to awaken and unlock the spirit of God within others. This is what we're doing here, man. So let's go ahead and look into this and talk a little bit more about the law, because if you can actually understand the spiritual aspect behind the law, most people think it's something that is coming from people. The law does not come from people. The law comes straight from the supreme. Like there's a law in order to this thing. That's what they say, right? So look at something called the derivation of law. Let's look at that. Derivation of law. So you have lex aeterna, which is the eternal law, God's will for the government of the created universe. And I like showing this stuff just as a little opener because sometimes it's not about what you know, it's about what you don't know, because you can't ask a question that you don't know how to ask. And you can't ask about something that you've never heard of. So sometimes it's just about exposing yourself to new words. That's the power and the magic behind them. So lex aeterna, which is the eternal law, God's will for the government of the created universe. This is more so jurisprudence here. And this is God's will for the government of the created universe. So that's nature. That's the rain, the water, that's the air, the volcanoes. Like this is just the way the stuff is supposed to be governed within themselves. It's almost as if to say that you can't be mad at certain things for being or doing what's natural to their governance, because that's just how they move. And it's not that you should be upset or anything like that. Just control your space and maybe move somewhere else. Everything has a place. Nothing is good or bad. Everything has a place here. Just say you have preferences and you should stay close to those preferences. So from this government or this order of life or this circle of life comes really just two things. It breaks down into two things, and that's the principles of morality and the scientific law. And really, it just busts down to number two, the scientific law or laws observed. And that really goes to like, okay, cool. When we watching something and we just see how it works, like you kick a ball and it starts to move. We call that whatever. And that's just that scientific observation of the law. And then you have the principles of morality behind the observations that we're doing, like the inertia, the friction, all these different terms that we've developed. we have moral principles behind them. And that's when lex divina comes up, which is the divine law, the eternal law, as revealed to men by scripture. Now, I want you to notice something here. It said it's revealed to men in scripture. So this is a lot of reading versus the other one is lex naturalis, the natural law. So that's the participation of the rational creature in the eternal law. So let's go back to lex divina, because this is the participation, the natural law. But before we get to the participation, this is the revelation through scripture, or documentation of the observed laws that we have written down to keep us up to speed with how things work on this planet. That's what the scriptures reveal to us. And within that, you got the Old Testament, and then you got the New Testament, the Lex Vetus and the Lex Nova. And mind you, has nothing to do with participation yet. And I always like to tell people, especially the people who are heavy in the religion, and they just they call certain activities secular, and they don't really involve themselves on the planet. Well, the thing is, you're on the planet for a reason. You have that swirl on the back of your head. You have that finger mark, that fingerprint. You're unique, and you're supposed to be bringing something unique to this planet. So the divine law is where you up yourself up on the moralities that's been revealed to humanity throughout the centuries and aeons that we've been here. But this is just spiritualness, and you're still physical. You still have to participate, which is why that divina is going straight to the lex humana. So from the natural law, or the participation, should come human or positive law, because we're supposed to be moving in a positive direction for ourselves. And through that, since we all share this human body, it's assumed that positive progression for self will be positive progression for man, and for the next man, and for all of us combined. So even the natural law, even the divine law stretches now finally into the participation. And once you participate, you go into two categories, it says here. Just civil, which is the civil law, the penal code or the coded law, and then just gentium, which is the rights of nations, principles necessary for the government of any community. Now, I want you to notice how they make a distinction between civil law and then national law. We're going to get into this in a second. Let's get this done. In Christian communities, it says the lex humana and its derivatives are, of course, directly and consciously influenced by the lex divina, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So the natural law, the participation, is constantly influenced by our spirit, or how we view the spiritualness. Now, the only problem that derives from this, truthfully, is the fact that if the human law, or the participation in this law, is being derived from the scripture, you notice how everybody's reading the same book, but everybody has these different interpretations. But we're reading the same book, same words, but we're having these different interpretations, and this causes so much confusion. And this is where you end up into penal code, or a coded law, which is really for people who don't know how to act. Because in national law, that's a representative form of government, which has to do with the right of self-determination of who and what you are and what you're doing. And if you don't have that, then you fall under civil law, right? And let's go ahead and take a look at this. So the United Nations Declarations on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples was something that was convened 2007. They signed on to this in 2008. And look what it says. In Article 3, indigenous peoples have the right of self-determination. By virtue of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic, social, and cultural development. Do you know what the right of self-determination is? That is number 7. Or number 6, excuse me. Every indigenous individual has the right to a nationality. Let's keep this going. Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Assembled in when? December 1948. See what they talking about 50 years ago, or 60, 70 years ago. Everyone has the right to a nationality. All right, let's do this one more time. In the Convention on the Rights of a Child, November 1989. Okay, let's go to Article 7. The child shall be registered immediately after birth and shall have the right from birth to a name, the right to acquire a nationality. Look at number 8. Oh no, it ain't that. Oh yeah. Number 8. States parties undertake to respect the right of a child to preserve his or her identity, including a nationality. So here's something interesting. Do you see them saying anything about you have the right to civil law? Peep the game, man. Peep the game. Peep how they put it in front of you. Because here's the thing about equity: what's assumed to be done is done. They don't check on it. What you're assumed to be doing is considered done. And we've been freed last time I checked, at least in the West, from chattel slavery since what 1868. They don't abolish slavery. But peep the game real quick. Look at how they show you. Let's go to the 13th Amendment real quick. It says, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude shall exist within the United States. And what does that mean? That means that it's involuntary that's illegal, but you can voluntarily work under a master. And however that master treats you, if you voluntarily stay there, then that's how it is, which is also in the Bible too. I forget the chapters, but it's the Hebrew terms for slavery. It says that if your slave service term and then they decide to stay, then that's your slave for life. That says that in the Bible. And so again, man, peep the game, because on the news and on the propagated media and all this stuff, they'll talk to you about nation this and country that and international law this. But then they talk to you and they talking about civil rights, uh, privileges, what they call privileges and immunities, which is what? The 14th, where all persons, where's the privileges and immunities? I don't even, oh, here it go. Which shall abridge, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges and immunities of the citizens. Go that C word. So which one you want, rights or privileges? Because one says you have the right of self-determination, meaning you are who you say you are and you follow the rules you follow. You do what you want to do. And over here in the West, we got these constitutions that says that so long life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, that you don't take that from somebody else, you can do whatever you want in this place. The land of the free, right? But remember, freedom is only for the people who voluntarily go for that. Because slavery is the opposite of freedom, and they can enforce that on you if it's voluntarily done through you. So they can't force you to be this, but they can suggest, influence, and push stuff in your face to make you make certain decisions. And on top of that, it says, except as punishment for a crime, whereof the party shall have been. So basically, if you're a criminal or if you're choosing to live life like a slave, then legally you are binded to that. And that's what they're saying in this whole thing. But mind you, peep how the civil law and then even the law of nations, that's at the bottom. That's like the as above, so below. This is the outcome of your spirit. Because really, we're supposed to be starting this from the top, from the eternal law with the principles of our moralities and our scientific observations of the world, to be making determinations for self to follow. So the end of this, when you're actually signing this stuff and all that stuff, that's a reflection of your spirit, or at least it's supposed to be, because we're supposed to be unified in the spirit, body, mind, and spirit. What you say you are, should be nothing wrong with that, and it should be done in the physical. So, again, for people who say, oh, the laws isn't the answer to our problems and this and that, well, that's one of the beginnings, because the law is actually just the universal order of the planet. And we have certain things put in play, like equity, that helps you deal with the law. But if you have none of this, see, that will be under self-determination type of things. If you don't have nothing going for you, since the world has an order and you have to be under a law from the way this culture has been derived. We're talking about the temporal times at least. If you don't have none of that for yourself, aka a nation, you'll be put under code. And I could just go on and on about this. I'm gonna end it right here and just give a little tidbit of that. Keep building up on this because this is all dealing with the animal self. Like the laws is to put your animal self in check, but all that stuff comes from the spirit first. And this is again what all the slavery was about with the recent history people got to deal with and really wake up to. Because a lot of people still don't know about white slavery. That's news to people. Like I was talking to my lady and her mom mentioned that she ain't even know. She didn't even know that white people was enslaved. And this isn't to just bring up old news or anything like that, but it's just to say that our worldview is sometimes caught up in the past. And we have to be caught up to speed of what's actually been happening on the planet because you need to see things full circle. And this is what all the slavery was really about, taking you from your nation. Taking you from your nation so that way they can label you, give you an identity, which is a code, give you a code to follow, to call yourself. That way they can put you under some type of civil law, which is Roman law. And so that's it, man. The choice is yours, as usual. But here's the proof, man. The proof is in the pudding, like they say. We gonna keep building on this though, man. Y'all love and light. Y'all stay balanced and beautiful out there, and always know that the true answer is always inside of yourself, and you never have to wait on anybody.